out of all the attachment styles, the fearful avoidant attachment style is probably the one that is into personal development the most. That's just a general trait of the fearful avoidant attachment style, which is an absolute gift as you are healing and when you've healed, because you can create so much. And when you are into personal development, the chances are that you run into the law of attraction sooner or later. And I just wanted to talk to you about that because, as beautiful and magnificent the law of attraction is, it can actually cause a lot of unrest and anxiety for the ones with the fearful avoidant attachment style. So it can absolutely help you and it can work. And it actually helped me heal in a way too, which I might discuss in a later video. If you're interested, let me know in the comments below. But it can also cause anxiety when you start hearing about the law of attraction. And there are a few things you have to know that are very specific to the fearful avoidant attachment style in how to see the law of attraction and how to use the law of attraction. So when you've never heard of the law of attraction, let me explain real brief, but there's a lot of information on it. The law of attraction simply states like attracts like. And sometimes this gets explained as your thoughts create your reality. And that is where it can become difficult for the fearful avoidant, because a lot of fearful avoidants are prone to cognitive distortions, which are kind of like thinking mistakes. And one of those is magical thinking, which means that you believe that when you think something, it will happen. And that would be great in the positive sense, but you probably also have a lot of negative thoughts. And when then you hear thoughts create your reality, it can cause so much anxiety. Whenever a negative thought pops up, you're like, I don't want that to happen. So you try to resist it. You try to repress that thought. And that is what you're doing already as a fearful avoidant. You are judging your thoughts. You are judging your feelings. Some feelings you need to have, some thoughts you need to have, and some feelings you cannot have, and you resist. You cannot control your thoughts and you cannot control your feelings. And so you don't have to. Even with the law of attraction, there's this idea or like this image of the law of attraction that you have to be high vibe all the time and you like have to have positive thoughts all the time and positive words all the time. And that is just not realistic. You are human. We are all human. We cannot control our thoughts and we cannot control our feelings, and you really, really, really don't have to. So when you start getting into the law of attraction, you might be wondering like, shit, I have all these negative thoughts and beliefs and feelings. Will they all manifest? And this was something I was so scared of. I was so scared of every single thought and feeling I had that I didn't want to manifest. But then I just randomly asked my mom one day. I'm an only child, and I asked her, have you ever thought about the fact that if I would die, you would have no children anymore? I'm sure there was a context. I don't know why, but we were just talking about, life things. And this was a question I asked her. And she said, oh yeah, about like a 100 million times. And that never crossed my mind that she would think about that. But my mom is kind of a worrier, and she is anxious prone to have anxiety a little bit. So I guess it makes sense. But that actually was kind of a light bulb moment for me, because I realized that was also in the time when I was starting to discover the law of attraction, and I thought, oh my gosh, all negative thoughts also manifest, and I don't want that. And I thought, wait, that cannot be true, because what I know from parents and now from my own mother, I mean, if that were true, she would have manifested losing me. And I'm still here. This may be a little bit like, because it's all about it's about death and stuff. It might be a bit gruesome, but it really does paint a picture, because those thoughts go with a lot of anxiety. So there's a lot of intense emotion involved. And I know that a lot of parents have that. I know I have that too now with my daughter, who is 18 months, that I'm just really afraid to lose her. It's just something that comes with being a parent. And if it were true that every thought that you have that is accompanied by intense emotion would manifest, that would mean, well, you can probably fill in the blanks, that a lot of children like would die. And that's just that just doesn't happen to the extent, it's not like a one-on-one rule. So I realized, well, if my mom can think 100 million times that if I were gone, she would have nobody and she would be afraid of that, and nothing even in that area happened, like it wasn't even, I never came even close, she never came close to losing me, then that must mean that that's not just the whole truth. And that's really good to know, because you cannot control your thoughts and feelings. And it doesn't matter whether you feel a lot of anxiety and when you have a lot of anxious and negative thoughts. Of course, when you have a lot of anxious and negative thoughts, you'll generally feel less happy. When you have happier thoughts, you'll feel happier. But that's such a shitty thing. I'm actually quite passionate about this. I'm trying to be cool. But it's such a shitty thing to tell people that you just have to think positive and just have to be happy. If you've ever had OCD, if you've ever had genuine anxiety, which a lot of the fearful avoidants have, you know that hearing things like that can ramp up that being anxious even more, because you're like, oh shit, now I really have to control my feelings and have to control my thoughts, because otherwise really bad things will happen. And they won't. It really, really, really won't. There's so much more to it, and I will touch upon that shortly in this video. If you're interested in this is like, this topic just popped up, and I'm passionate about this topic as it relates to people that actually have mental health issues, in the sense of OCD, and that are afraid of their thoughts and feelings. It feels like there's this law of attraction that, like, you can create your beautiful life, but because I don't have a choice in what I think and what I feel, which what a lot of people with OCD feel like, that is not for me. Like, I'm struggling so hard here, and I cannot use the law of attraction. There's so much more to it, and you can absolutely create the life you want, even with anxiety and negative thoughts. You do not have to be high five all the time. You do not have to just have positive beliefs and positive feelings all the time. So the main thing I want to say here in this video, and if you're interested in more on this topic, just let me know. Like I said, this just randomly popped up and I wanted to make a video on it. The main thing is that you can absolutely manifest something you want when you don't have resistance towards that specific thing. And I will give you a very concrete example. When I was still absolutely in my OCD period, relationship OCD, which is actually quite common in fear, or quite common. I don't know how many people actually have it, but there is a link between the fearful avoidant attachment style and relationship OCD, or ROCD. When I was still in the middle of that, and I was diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder, that's when I started interviewing 100 couples that were happily married for over 40 years in my home country, the Netherlands. And I wrote a book about it. And that book was published by a publisher. And I went for that, and I wanted it to happen. And I had so much fear around it. I had so much doubt about myself. there was this fire in me that I just wanted to do this, and I just kept going. And that was all I had to do. But every single day I doubted myself. Every single day I had to call up these couples to ask them if I could interview them. And I was so scared to pick up the phone because I was so scared they would get mad at me for even asking them to do an interview. Looking back, I genuinely don't know how I did it. I just know that I kept going, and I had mental breakdown after mental breakdown. And I had so much fear in my body, not a lot of positive emotions. When I thought about wanting to write that book, there was just all these beliefs that I couldn't do it, and that I would fail, and everybody would laugh at me, and people would doubt me. And I just kept going. I just kept going because I thought, well, these stories need to be shared, and I'm just gonna do the best I can. So those were the most positive thoughts I had. Not like, I'm amazing and I can do this and I'm a published author. I never ever thought that. And still, it absolutely 100% magically manifested that I wrote the book, I published it myself, it got picked up by a national publisher, and it got published and became quite a success. And that to me was proof, my first proof of you can absolutely manifest stuff even when you are super scared and have all these negative beliefs and feelings. You just keep going. You just keep putting action behind that thing that you want. So that is one. And the second is that when I started getting into the law of attraction, I wrote down my dream house. That was like one of the first exercises that I came across. Like, just write out your dream house. What does it look like? But what does it feel like? Like, what does the hallway feel like when you enter it? What does the kitchen feel like? And the living room feel like? And I just wrote that down kind of like an exercise, and I talked about it with Arya, my husband, and it was kind of like a fun thing to do. And as an almost afterthought, I wrote down the date because in the exercise it said to do that. And it was 5 years into the future. So March 2019 would be when we would live there. So I wrote down as a last line, and we lived there end of March 2019, which was exactly 5 years after I wrote down that vision. Mind you, in that moment, we lived in a really small apartment. We were broke as I don't know what. Like, literally had to live off of 40 euros a week for the two of us for food and everything, for a couple of years. And what I wrote down was like a freestanding house in the middle of the country in nature, which in the Netherlands is like easily $1 million or more. So there was absolutely no logic into us manifesting that. But I just wrote it down, and it kind of like was in the back of my mind, and somehow I could just visualize us living in that place. And why I'm sharing this example is because I had so much anxiety about so many things in my life, and I resisted a lot of things because I thought I wasn't worth it. But somehow manifesting a dream house was not something I felt a lot of resistance to. Somehow that just felt like, yeah, that could happen. Why couldn't it, Even though there, like, all of the other areas in my life felt like, no, I can't have that. No, I can't do that. No, that would be too much. No, I'm not worthy. And so, as you might expect, we now live in that dream house, and it is almost exactly to a T the things I wrote down. I wrote down 43 points, and 41 points came true. And they are also just very, very weird things. Like, I just wrote down, because I was having fun with the exercise, I wrote down, we get free food. And I had absolutely no clue how that would come about. But now we live in a, it's very hard to explain, but like, we live across from a restaurant that is actually owned and run by friends of ours. and they sometimes have leftover food, and so we get free food. I mean, it's crazy how it all manifested and how the puzzle pieces fit together. But what helped me in that is in those 5 years that it manifested, because also we lived there, we moved there in May 2019, so 2 months after the date I wrote down. But what was so important for me, the lesson in that, was in those 5 years, I was not high vibe. I was still, especially in the beginning of those 5 years, I still was in the middle of the generalized anxiety disorder. I was scared. I had so many negative thoughts, negative feelings, struggling with self-worth, and still it manifested because I didn't feel resistance to this very specific part in my life. So when I've noticed that when you want something more, like you need something and you want it so badly, so badly, but you're also afraid to take action, that's when you're actually resisting it the most. The things that you're like, oh yeah, well, why couldn't that happen? And also, I was pretty happy where we lived. We lived in a small apartment, but that was fine. That was okay. And that helps too. So the more you want something, the more you resist it in a way. Because if you wouldn't resist it, you would have it, or you would have the experience of it. You could conjure up the feeling of it. Okay, so this is already kind of going into the technicalities of it a bit more. Again, if you're interested, please let me know. This is obviously not like the normal content for this channel, but yeah, just something I'm passionate about. I just want you to know that the law of attraction can absolutely work for you in your favor, and you can create what you want. Because also the things that you do have that resistance towards, you can release that resistance. There will be like negative beliefs and stuff come up, and you can just let that go, release that, tap on it with the emotional freedom technique as a way to clear the path towards that which you want, which actually makes the law of attraction a beautiful tool in healing. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you have heard of the law of attraction, if you're like working with it, having fun with it, playing with it, if you're frustrated by it, if this helps, if you have any other questions, if you want more content on this, let me know. I'm really curious to know. And I'm, as always, so very happy you are here.